All right, NFC, second game. San Francisco 49ers, our San Francisco 49ers, they're making us a lot of money these days. They head to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Rams are at 3.5-point favorites. They've basically been there the entire week. We're at 45.5 on the total. Raheem, we've been smashing the Niners for weeks now. We talked them up earlier this week. Has anything changed, or are you still in on the 49ers?
I'm still in on the 49ers. And first things first, before we get into this game, you're going to hear all week about how it's very difficult for a team to win 3 times. And we're going to dispel that myth right now. Look, since the NFL merger in 1970, there have been 22 instances in which a team has swept its divisional foe in the regular season, only to meet again in the postseason. The team who swept the regular season matchup is 14-8 in those games. That includes last year. And of course, Tom Brady was the one who broke the trend. Before that was 14-7. And if you want to get more granular, and for those instances, the road team has actually completed the sweep. That's something that the San Francisco 49ers are looking to do here. Look, 49ers have dominated this matchup during the Shanahan-McVay era. They're 7-3, and they've won the last 6 matchups with 4 of those coming in the role of underdog. We all know Kyle Shanahan in the role of underdog. He's 25-17 at 60%. I like the 49ers in this matchup. I think a big part of it is their ability to dominate on both sides of the ball with the run game. Look, I know this Rams pass rush is first in pass rush win rate, and they have 50 sacks on the year. That's third. But they're able to really run the ball and neutralize that pass rush. First 2 matchups, they had 156 yards, 135 yards, and that opens things up for Jimmy Garoppolo, who's really played well against this team. We look at Jimmy Garoppolo and 2 games against the 49ers, against the Rams, he was 38 of 51, 498 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he even led an 88-yard drive for a touchdown to send the game into overtime, and then had the game-winning drive in Week 18 to send the 49ers into the playoffs. So a lot of people are going to overreact to what Jimmy G did last week, but I think he's going to have a big game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you on everything here. We are in on the 49ers, and we ain't going anywhere on this. I agree. We can't make too much of this Jimmy Garoppolo thing. We're not betting on a player. This is not the NBA. This is not one superstar takes over the game and it's all on them. You're betting on Jimmy Garoppolo in the 49ers system. You're betting on Jimmy Garoppolo with Kyle Shanahan's play calling, with George Kittle to throw to, with Deebo Samuel out of the backfield, with Trent Williams and those blockers. And in this matchup, all of those things are positives for him. And the numbers have been good. The numbers don't mean Jimmy Garoppolo is an awesome quarterback. They don't need to mean that. They need to say Jimmy Garoppolo's offense with the 49ers is very good. And that's what every number we have says this year, and really every year. When Garoppolo is healthy, when they play with all their guys out there, it's just a very good offense, and it always has been. You mentioned the Shanahan underdog numbers. Last 19 times the Niners have been underdogs, they have won 12 of those outright. That's almost 2 out of 3 times that they win outright as underdogs. They've dominated this matchup, like you said. Week 18, they were missing Trent Williams, their best player. They were down 17-0. Sean McVay is 46-1 lifetime with a halftime lead. That's the one. He blew the lead. The Niners almost doubled them up in yardage. It wasn't as close as the final score looked. The earlier matchup this season was 31-10 Niners. They doubled time of possession. Matt Stafford has struggled against this defense. And I think, too, we've got to give credit to this defense. They were awesome against the Packers. D'Amico Ryans really schemed things up well and I think confused Aaron Rodgers. He'll never admit to it, but he was having a hard time getting those reads. They were putting a lot of guys at the line and then dropping coverage. And you mentioned the pass rush win rate as well. That's the scary thing, because what if Aaron Donald and Von Miller are in Garoppolo's face all game? We don't really trust Garoppolo. We don't want him to have to go win the game. What if he looks like Tom Brady last game? Those guys are in his face. Well, this is not Tampa Bay's offensive line. Donovan Smith was a turnstile last week. Tristan Wirfs was out at right tackle. Both tackles were just open passages, guys just coming around the edge the entire game. Trent Williams is not going to be doing that. I need to see Trent Williams playing. If he suddenly would be a late scratch, That would be a huge, huge loss in this game, the way Von Miller is looking. But the Niners actually had more sacks this season against the Rams than vice versa. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead have also been awesome rushing the passer, and Andrew Whitworth, the Rams tackle, is a question mark. He looks like he'll play too. We think these guys are going to play. It's the big game, but there's I don't have a hard time finding what about the Rams matching up here that I like. I like so much about the Niners here.
I do too. And I think one of the big things the 49ers have in their advantage is that they can generate a pass rush without blitzing. That's something that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't do last week. And it ultimately burned them because they tried to, Todd Bowles decided to blitz at the end of the game, and Matthew Stafford absolutely destroyed the blitz by, throwing a pass to Cooper Kupp, which pretty much ended the game. Well, when you look at the 49ers, what they did in that second matchup in week 18, they actually pressured Stafford 15 times and sacked him 5 times, and they barely blitzed. So I just think this is a really, really, really good spot for the 49ers defense. I think also when you look at the offense, one of the things that the 49ers do well is they throw the ball to the middle of the field.
Yep.
So, and that's an area where the Rams struggle to stop because they don't have good linebackers. So if you're able to throw the ball to the middle of the field and you're able to run the ball, I just think both sides of the ball, the 49ers have a real edge. The only thing that's really the only thing that really scares us in this matchup is the Jimmy G variance. We all know Matthew Stafford's the better quarterback, but when you look at the coaching advantage, when you look at the edge on both sides of the ball, I think the 49ers have it. Now, there's another thing, people are mentioning the 49ers are playing their 4th straight road game. And do you think it's possible they can run out of gas?
I think it's possible, but this is not a long road trip. The 49ers are going to take a couple hours, to get to LA. It's not really a whole lot closer than the LA guys are getting to their own stadium. And look, we watched week 18. That was a home game for the 49ers. These Rams, they're scared. The Rams ticket sellers are trying to black out tickets from outside of the LA market. They know what happened. There was red in the stands and loud cheering for the 49ers in Los Angeles. Niners fans, they're going to show up at this game. So I actually think, I don't know that there's any real home field advantage at all for the Rams here. This line, I think, is pricing in some home field advantage. So I think that actually is just going to buy us a little more value on the line. I can't believe, truly, that this line has never really dropped past the 3.5. At least to a 3, at least off the hook. For me, that's the one thing that scares me a little bit, just because we've been smashing the Niners and so many people have, so many others at Action Network have, and it just feels like this line is begging you to take the Niners as well as they've played when you get that extra half point. But I have to do it because everything looks so good. I think the way they're playing right now, I actually believe that the 49ers have the better offense and defense right now. Defensively, they're number 4 in DVOA the last 8 weeks into the season. They're number 1 on run defense. We've said all year, the Rams cannot run the ball. They can't. Cam Akers is back, but averaged 2 yards a pop last week, fumbled twice, lost his confidence. If you can't run, now the whole thing is Matt Stafford trying to beat this pass rush and trying to get the ball down the field. And I agree. We're nervous about Jimmy Garoppolo. You never know when he might do the thing and throw it away. Guess who else can do that at any given play? Matt Stafford. Matthew Stafford, as you would call him. You got to get the first name out for that man because he can do it too. And we don't even need to say the numbers at this point. Against teams 500 or better, the man does not get a lot of wins. And he has the last couple of weeks, but I don't want to make too much of beating up on a Bucs team that was missing like half of their starters and almost beat them anyway, and beating a Cardinals team that sputtered down the stretch like they always do, and that one is the matchup that favors the Rams. That's kind of the flip of this one, where the Rams usually get that matchup. So I just think that this line, I don't know what it is. It's
I'm going to tell you what it is. Honestly, you have sharp guys on both sides of this game. So you got to remember, a lot of the sharper guys came out at the start of the season and took the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. So you're seeing a Rams team at home. And this is so funny because last week, I think you asked me, we did this little exercise, and I know you guys, I don't know if you guys remember, we did an exercise on who had the most future value. I don't know if you remember, but you took the 49ers and I took the Rams. And one of the reasons why I took the Rams, despite liking the 49ers in this matchup, is because they have a home game at the NFC Championship for the Super Bowl. And I mean, we both ended up being right because the 49ers and the Rams are here in the NFC Championship game, but you give a team a home game, an NFC Championship game, and you have an opposing team which has played 4 straight road games. And there's some questions around Deebo Samuels. There's some questions about Trent Williams, and that's why you're going to have sharper guys on both sides. Yeah. So it's interesting to see, but I mean, I personally like the 49ers. Look, you mentioned it with Matthew Stafford. He's thrown 8 interceptions in the last 4 games of the regular season, and then he beat up on a Cardinals team, which was just never the same after the first 10 weeks of the NFL season. And then he beat up on a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, which had their entire secondary in the hospital. So, like, yeah. I don't, to me, the Rams have to prove it to me. And I still think they have some demons that they have to overcome with this 49ers team. So even if the Rams do win, I think at plus 3.5, I think you have a positive expected value wager. We both like the 49ers money line, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm on the Niners to cover. I'm on the Niners money line. I like Niners. You can play them at most books to lead at halftime and then win at the end of the game. Again, we know that Sean McVay stat. If the Rams are leading at halftime, they almost always win. They only that one Week 18 game. So I'm seeing plus 265 there. That's kind of a sneaky way to add a little value to your money line on the Niners if you do that. A couple other trends to point out. Another Stafford trend. November or later, playing teams over 500. When he's a favorite, Matthew Stafford is 7-8 straight up as a favorite in those games. So he's losing more than he's winning in those games. And that includes the last 2 weeks, sorry, not last week. He was a dog there, but that includes the win over the Cardinals, 5-9-1 against the spread in those games. So only 36% cover. I want to add too, my favorite prop in this game. You kind of hit toward this earlier and I thought you were going to steal it from me, but I'm going to come back to it. The Rams can't cover the middle of the field. Guess who plays pretty darn well in the middle of the field? It's our guy, George Kittle. So this year, Week 18, George Kittle had 10 catches on 5 receptions. 10 yards on 5 catches. Not what you want, but remember, Trent Williams was out. I think he did a lot of extra blocking in that game to help protect. If you look at the games before that, the last 6 times, so last 4 seasons as Kittle played, even if you include that game, here's some of the yardage totals he's had. 4 catches for 100, 5 for 98, 9 for 149, 8 for 103, 7 for 109. Over the last 4 seasons, even including that Week 18 game, he's averaging 6 catches for 98 yards. He had a touchdown in 5 of those 8 games. So you can get Kittle over 55.5 yards at plus money right now. You can get him at 75 yards or more, which he's done in 5 of those 7 games, plus 260, plus 580 if you want to go 100 yards or higher. And you can also go over 4.5 catches at minus 130. That line is crazy to me. He's gone over that the last 7 games against the Rams. So we know Kittle had a big game last week, could have had an even bigger game, had a couple drops that he wouldn't normally have. I think he has a big line here, especially over the middle. That's their bread and butter. So I like that one. I like the Niners halftime, full time, Niners cover, Niners money line. Do you have any other Niners plays here? Anything on the total before we wrap up?
I'm leaning towards the over. I think this total is starting to get a little bit too low. I've seen some 45.5s in the market, which is, I mean, crazy between these two teams. Look, you got 2 offenses which are in the top 5, top 10 in EPA per play. The 49ers went under last week, and I think they went well under expectation. You just gave out the over on a passing prop, and to me, I think you could see Deebo Samuels go over 15.5 yards. I mean, based on what he did, I mean, he's pretty much their all-purpose player. Like, so I think 45.5, we're getting to a point where these two teams are familiar with each other. Look, they went over that in both matchups. So I think to expect them to go under 45 in today's NFL, that's a little much. So I'm leaning over, and I actually might play that now.
I think we're going to get some points this weekend in both of those games.